Hey guys, this is Katrina with IdeateTV, and I'm here with Sherri, who is a composer at Riverdale. Hey Sherri.
Hi, Katrina. How are you?
I'm good. I'm inspired because you're my first female composer that I've interviewed.
All right. Yay, females.
Yeah, and how's that been being a female, if I may ask, going into industry and being a composer?
My story has actually been one where it's a difficult industry to break into, so whether I think no matter what gender you are, where you're coming from, whatever your experience level is, it just takes time to really cut your teeth in this kind of craft. It's a very specific and niche kind of thing. It's very, so I feel like my journey has just been one where I feel like I'm just making my way through. I felt very supported by a lot of the mentors and the people that I was working for and then now working with, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of support. So female or not, it's been a great journey for me, actually.
And how long have you been doing this for?
I graduated. I came out to Los Angeles and to attend the University of Southern California's graduate program in scoring for motion picture and television. Yeah, that's a mouthful. But so I graduated 10 years ago. So if we use that,
You do not look.
do you go on? Do you go on? So if we kind of use that as a gauge of when I graduated, then I would say a decade now.
Wow. And so you said mentorship, and I feel like being an artist, it's really important to find a mentor. How was that journey for you, kind of graduating out and finding somebody? I think believing yourself is one thing as an artist, and two, finding someone who can invest that time in you and encourage you and mentor you through that process too.
It's a fortunate thing that if anyone can sort of do that for somebody else. I've had so much support along the way, so I feel whenever I can give back, I like to do that. But in terms of the biggest mentor I believe I had was Blake Neely, and he was teaching at the time at USC and was already a very established and successful composer and had just great ways of breaking down some of his methods and some of his approaches to how he would work with music to picture. And over the years, I just stayed in touch with him, and we weren't meaning to do a mentorship mentee type of thing, but I would ask him questions and he would graciously answer. And so then we actually got a chance to start working together, and then now years later we're collaborating. But I still learn things from him, because you learn things from anyone who's just been doing what you're doing longer. So it's been kind of a very natural progression. I didn't really have to hound anybody to help me out. So I've been very fortunate in that way.
That's really cool. So working in Riverdale, composing the music for that, how has that been for you?
It's been a fun ride.
I thought you were going to be like, oh my gosh, it's been challenging, but it's great to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's so fun, because you have Greg Berlanti and Roberto, and they're the creators and producers of the show, and they have such an amazing vision. And it's really funny, because when we first heard about they're going to make a show out of the Archie comics, we're like, oh wow, that'll be dandy, because we have an idea of what the Archie comics were, but then when you have creators like these guys coming in and saying, no, it's not going to be that, it's going to be this. Then we saw that, Blake and I saw the pilot, we're like, what is this new, fresh magic that no one's ever seen before? And that becomes incredibly inspiring. So it's, the challenges are also the inspiration, and they're also the fulfilling parts. It's like, okay, we're going to do a noir episode, we're going to do an 80s episode, we're going to do straight up horror, we're going to do even, how much bigger in horror can you get, that kind of thing. So those are the challenges, but they're also that's what we do. That's what we want, those challenges, because that helps us just grow and evolve. So that show is outrageous, and we get to do a lot of really outrageous things on it. It's very fun.
That's really cool, because composing music and putting that into a storytelling form, did you kind of put yourself in it somehow too, musically?
Oh, you mean my background in music or anything? Yeah. I'm a classically trained pianist, which I only think helps me as a composer in general, because then I can use the piano as my tool, and I can also use it because most composers are going to have a setup with their computer where they can have an electric piano that actually can produce different sounds other than the piano. So because of that, especially if I'm programming drums or something, I'm not a drummer at all. I can't sit and do what they do. But if I know that's the kick drum, and I know this one's the snare, and then I know these are the hi-hats, and as a pianist I have the dexterity and the technique in my own hands to sort of create those more human feeling sounds, even if I can't hit all the right things. So I think even just that has helped me, sort of execute and present my ideas, even if it wasn't, I do think that for me, having a classical training in music, it just helps me understand music better, and therefore hopefully hone my craft even more.
So, may I ask, are you, your last name's Chung, are you half Asian? I didn't want to assume.
No, I am. So I'm half Chinese. My father is Chinese. My mother's from Canada, and so she's got European descent in her blood as well. So I am half Chinese.
That's really cool because me being an Asian as well, Asian American, going into industry, I always want to know how your path has been, especially being mixed, and how has that been as a half Asian American, half Canadian, or however been for you in that journey? Because for these viewers out here too, it's really encouraging to find people that we can connect to. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think that what's great about it, and this is going to sound awful, but it's also what's really good, is that in a crowd of people, in a crowd of composers, we will generally stand out. The minority will stand out. Obviously, there's times when minorities, it's unfortunate that there is a minority in any sense, but especially if you're trying to go for a job, or you're trying to really, if people, you hope, is my hope that people will always make decisions about hiring me based on my music. But let's face it, face time is also very important. It's also part of it. Personalities are important. So I feel like, if you go for an interview, or if you're submitting a demo and you're meeting with a bunch of people, if they're meeting with 3 or 4 composers, they might remember the female more. They might remember the Asian female more, So, I mean, but for those who don't have that to go on, wear a bright shirt, that kind of thing. But I think it's actually been, the unfortunate part is nobody wants to be known for what they look like, or what their ethnicity or what their gender is. We always want our work to speak for ourselves, and I do think that happens. But I do think when you have it, where it can be an advantage is it, you can stand out and people might remember you.
I feel that way for sure, especially sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, awkward, but you like you said, you want to put your best foot forward and let them see who you are.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It was great getting to know you and learning about your journey.
Thank you so much, Katrina. I really appreciate it. Hope your fans do too.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, cheers. Again, I'm Katrina with IdeateTV here at Wondercon.